Yesterday we have discussed the singly reinforced beam and we have discussed the doubly reinforced beam. We have seen how to design the singly reinforced and doubly reinforced beams. Analysis we have done. We have done the design portion also, and we have solved a number of gate problems which were asked in the previous years. Now we are going to start the flanged beams. It's a very important topic, flanged beam. This is also the part of the limited state of collapse in flexure, flanged beams. Flanged beams. What is the meaning of flanged beams? Suppose I cast my beam and the slab together, means if there is a monolithic construction of the beam and the slab, so it is called the flange beam because it acts as a single unit. Suppose I am going to cast one beam and after a few days, suppose I am casting one slab over it, so this will be your two different units. This will be your slab and this will be your beam. But suppose I am casting beam and slab together, if there is a monolithic construction, so this type of the sections are called the flange beam because in that situation it will be acting as a single unit. If it is acting as a single unit, the analysis will be something different and it will be taking the more moment of inertia, it will be taking the more bending moment. That's why this is called it's called the single unit, called the flange beams. So here you can see this type of the beams. So suppose this is a slab and somewhere here this is the top view I am drawing and this is your provided suppose one flange beam. The portion of the slab will be acting as a flange and the depth of the beam will be acting as a web for that particular flange beam. If I want to draw the cross section, this type of the beam I can see. This is called the flange beam. So suppose I am the web and these are my flange. These two parts is suppose this is the complete flange and this is the web. Right? So what will happen? Suppose this distance is your 500 mm and the remaining distance is suppose again 500 mm. Right? This is 500 mm, this is 500 mm. So what will happen? This complete distance cannot take the load. After some time or at the time of the loading, definitely up to some distance from the web, it will be something like this. Right? This is the actual width of the beam and this is the effective width of the beam. So if I draw my figure something like this, after some distance from the web, if it deflects in this fashion, so it is called the effective width of the flange. So 1000 is your actual width of the flange, but the available distance to take the load is this much from here to here. So definitely this distance is called the effective width of the flange. Now I want to know how to calculate the effective width of the flange. So there are some formula given in the IS 456-2000. Using that we can easily calculate the effective width of the flange. Let's calculate effective width of the flange now. So please note down effective width of the flange. Generally I denote B as the actual width of the flange and BF as the effective width of the flange. So effective width of the flange, suppose I am writing for continuous T-beams. For continuous T-beam, the effective width of the flange is given as L0 divided by 6 plus width of web plus 6 depth of flange. Then for isolated T-beam, the effective width is given as BF equal to L0 divided by B plus 4 plus BW. The next is here for continuous L beam. For continuous L beam, the effective width BF is given as L0 divided by 12 plus width of web plus 3 depth of flange. And for isolated L beam, the width of flange is given as 0.5 L0 divided by B plus 4 plus BW. Please note down this formula, then we will discuss what is L0, what is BW, and what is DF, and what is B. You have sufficient time to copy this. So in this way we calculate the effective width for the flange. This all the formula are given in the IS 456-2000. And we already seen why actually we are calculating the effective width of the flange, because up to the width of the flange, beyond the width of the flange, the portion may go down, it may bend, so the available width to take the load will be this much only, effective width. That's why people calculate the effective width. And now for further calculation, in the flange beams, I will be using only the width of flange, effective width of the flange. I will not be using the actual width of the flange. I will be using only the effective width of the flange. In any problem, if you see, they have given the actual width of the flange and they are asking calculate the moment of resistance for the given section. So first of all, we need to calculate the effective width of the flange, and then we will start the calculation for the moment of resistance. We will see how to calculate the moment of resistance for the flange sections, but first of all, we need to see how to calculate the effective width for the flange. I think you have written. So here we will see what is actually width of flange, effective width of flange we have seen. What is BW? Suppose this is your T beam, this is your T beam, and suppose this is your actual width B of the beam, which is nothing but this B, and this is suppose your BW. This BW is the width of web, this one and this one, width of web, and the depth of flange will be this one, depth of flange. Definitely it will bend after some distance. So the available distance will be BF. So definitely BF will be always less than B. It may be equal, but definitely it will not be greater than B. This is the condition. BF always less than B, but it will not be greater than B. Right? So what is L0? L0 means, write down, L0, it is the distance between the point of contrafracture Suppose this is the simply supported beam, and suppose the UDL is coming, the load, uniformly distributed load is there, the bending moment will be something like this. So in this way, if in this case, the L0 will be the actual length of the beam, L0. But if there is a simply supported beam, if suppose there is a fixed beam, in the case of the fixed beam, suppose this is your fixed beam, if I want to draw the bending moment diagram for this particular beam, it will be something like this. At the supports, I will be getting the negative moments, it's called the hogging moments, and at the mid span, I will be getting the positive moments. So your L0 will be the distance between the point of contrafracture. This is your one point of contrafracture, and this is the second point of contrafracture. So definitely the L0 will be the distance between these 2 points. This is called L0. This distance will be your L0. So till now we have discussed how to calculate the effective width, effective flange width, right? Let's solve some problems based on the flange width. Please see your PPT. Get 1992 for 1 mark. It's purely formula based equation. Please give the answer. What is the answer? The answer is D. Already we have seen for the continuous T beams, at the last they have written it's a continuous supports are there, means it is a continuous beam. So definitely for a T beam, continuous T beam, I know the formula, that is the L0 divided by 12, sorry, L0 divided by 6 plus width of web plus 6 depth of flange. The depth of flange means nothing but your depth of slab. Sorry, in the place of depth of flange I can write T. And the width of web they have given capital B. So in the place of width of web I can write capital B. So your formula will be B plus 6T plus L0 by 6. I can write in this way. So answer should be D. The answer should be D. Next question. 1995 for 1 mark. One question I am seeing here. Somebody is asking what is continuous and the isolated. Sir, continuous means the number of beams that you have provided in your structure. So definitely it will be your continuous beam. In isolated, suppose there is only one beam you have provided somewhere. In the actual structure, definitely there will be number of beams and it will be your continuous beam. Let's solve one problem. I will show you. If suppose you are going to provide one RCC beam in the shed in the railway station, you people have seen, I think. There is a shed. It's like this. So definitely there is a one beam only. One RCC beam is there. In the walkway we can see. One example you please see your PPT. Walkway. Generally at the walkway we provide the single and your isolated type of beams. Right? So this is the difference between the isolated P beam and the continuous T beam. So first of all you solve the previous problem. This problem get 1995. It is also based on the formula only. The answer is A. Same question. They were repeated in 1995 for 1 mark. And the answer is A. Same. Next problem we are going to discuss. Get 1998 for 1 mark. Let's calculate the effective width of the flange for the given section. Can you calculate and give me the answer, please? Let's calculate. For isolated T beam, I know the formula for effective width is BF equal to L0 divided by L0 by B plus 4 plus width of web. The L0 they are given, it is the simply supported beam. And they have given the effective span is 6 meter. So L0 is your 6 meter. I can write here, it is your 600 mm. Again L0 is your 600 mm, I can write here. And the B, it is the actual width. They have given the 1000 mm in the figure. So I can write here the 1000 mm. Plus 4, plus width of wave we can see. They have given the 300 mm. So if you see, so here I am getting the 600 mm plus 300 mm equal to total it's 900 mm. So effective flange, definitely it is the effective flange BF and the actual width is B is equal to 1000 mm. So B width of flange is less than my B actual B. Right? So answer is A. 900 mm. So I told you your width of flange is definitely less than actual width. Here I am getting the effective width of the flange is 900 mm and the actual width they have given is 1000 mm. Right? Now let's start the calculation part. How to analyze this flange type of beams? How to analyze this flange beam? This is a very important question for me. The analysis is very easy and it is based on a limit state concept only. There are 3 cases we are going to study now. Suppose the case number first. Suppose this is your flange beam. This is one flange beam you have. The width of the weight is BW. The depth of the flange is df. I told you in all the calculation now I will be considering the effective width of the flange. So suppose this is the effective width of the flange BF. This is not your actual width of the flange. It is the effective width of the flange BF. So what I am going to do here is I want to draw the stress block. I know my stress block is parabolic up to the strain of 0.002 and then it is straight up to the strain of 0.003 that we have seen in the last lecture. This is the assumption of the limit state curve collapse in flexure. So see here, suppose I am providing some reinforcement here. So to the tensile reinforcement, I can draw my stress block. So this is my stress block. It is first parabolic and then it is straight. So what is the meaning I want to make here? My depth of neutral axis, you can see here, this is the actual depth of the neutral axis, XU suppose. This my depth of the neutral axis is less than the depth of flange. Right? So this is only my first case. Case number first, if suppose the depth of the neutral axis is less than the depth of the flange. This is the first case. So that you can make the point, the given section if the depth of the neutral axis is less than the depth of the flange, the given section can be analyzed as a rectangular beam. Can be analyzed as a rectangular beam section. So if I can analyze this flange beam as a rectangular beam, so I know the total compressive forces is equal to 0.36 FCK B into XU, right? This time the B will be your width of flange. That is the effective width of the flange. I should write here BF. Because my depth of the neutral axis is within the flange portion and the depth of the neutral axis is less than the depth of flange. So I can write the total compressive force equal to 0.36 FCK BF into XU. And the total tensile force T equal to 0.87 FY into AST. Suppose AST, area of reinforcement, I have provided AST. These are the simple calculation I know. Already in the last lecture we have studied how to calculate the total compressive force and the total tensile force for the given rectangular section in the limit state of collapse in flexure. This already we have discussed. So if you are facing the problem, if you are facing the case first, means that if you are calculating the depth of the neutral axis which is less than the depth of flange, so we can analyze this given flange beam as a rectangular beam, and for this the total compressive force will be this much and the total tensile force will be this much. Definitely I can calculate the moment of resistance also, and the moment of resistance will be C into lever arm and the T into lever arm. That is 0.36 FCK B into XU into D minus 0.42 XU. Here again I will be using the same width of flange. That is the effective width of the flange. And the moment of resistance in the tension zone will be equal to 0.87 Fy into AST into D minus 0.42 XU. Right? So suppose you are facing the depth of the neutral axis is less than the depth of flange. So now easily you can analyze the given section as a rectangular beam section. The moment of resistance we can calculate. But suppose we want to design the flange beam. So what we need to do? We can calculate the moment of resistance and we can put the moment of resistance equal to the applied bending moment, and we can calculate the area of AST required using the formula. Already we have discussed in the last lecture how to calculate AST. We have a number of formula to calculate the area of reinforcement for the balance the section. So from there we can design the flange beam also. Only in that case where we have the depth of the neutral axis less than the depth of flange. Now how to calculate the depth of the neutral axis? Simple, you put C equal to T. From there you can calculate the depth of the depth of the neutral axis, and you can check whether it is greater than the depth of flange or the less than the given depth of the flange of the beam. Right? So now what I need to do here, this is my first case. Case number first. This is your case number first where your depth of neutral axis XU is less than the depth of the flange DF. Please note down fast. Done. See here. Now the case number 2. Please see the case number 2. Suppose, say I know this is the depth of the neutral axis now. This is the depth of flange, this is the depth of your flange, and this is the depth of the neutral axis. And I know this will be your 3/7 of XU. Yesterday we have derived the depth of the rectangular stress block is 3/7 of XU, and this is your suppose total depth of the neutral axis XU. If suppose this is the total depth of the neutral axis, the rectangular portion will be up to the 3/7 of XU, and the remaining will be 4/7 of XU. So one conclusion I can make here, this is my case number 2. This is the case second, where depth of neutral axis XU is greater than depth of flange. Right? You can see here your depth of the neutral axis is definitely greater than the depth of flange. Right? This is your case number 2. Now this one subcase is there, 2.A. The case 2.A is suppose you are satisfying this condition and you are also satisfying 3/7 of XU is also greater than depth of flange. Yeah, this condition is okay. XU depth of the neutral axis is greater than the depth of flange. That is fine. We can see here. But we are also satisfying. Suppose in this case, 3/7 of XU is greater than DF, means greater than or equal to. I should write here greater than or equal to depth of flange. So what will happen? So right now we can see up to here. It is a rectangular portion. Up to here it is a rectangular portion, and this is the depth of the flange. So what will happen? Definitely 3/7 of XU is greater than the depth of flange. That means I can write here the flange is uniformly stressed. For the given section, the flange portion is uniformly stressed because this rectangular portion is applying the uniform stresses everywhere in the flange. So in this case, if your depth of the neutral axis is greater than the depth of the flange, and 3/7 of the depth of flange is also greater than or equal to the depth of flange, so it means your depth of the flange is definitely uniformly stressed. It's called uniformly stressed. Right? So how to analyze this? So in this case, the very simple way is divide the figure into the wave and flange portion. So what will happen? If you are facing this type of the problem, the depth of neutral axis gets exceeded your depth of flange, and 3/7 of XU is also greater than the depth of flange. We divide the given figure into two parts. The first part is your flange and the second part is your web. Now we will be analyzing your two parts separately, and we will make our final conclusion by adding these to the results. So what I am going to do now, I am going to divide this part into two parts. So you can see here, this is your wave portion. This is your purely wave portion. I'll be taking the wave portion. You can see here in this figure, I am taking the wave portion from the top of the beam. Means from the top of the flange, I am considering the full wave. So the total effective depth is suppose D. The total effective depth is suppose D. And this is the wave width BW. The total AST, suppose you have provided, the area of reinforcement is AST 1. So, I told you we will be dividing the given figure into two parts. First is your wave and second is your flange. So, this is your flange portion now. Of course, the total width of the flange, effective width of the flange is BF. Already I have considered the width of the wave. So the remaining width here is BF minus BW. So total width available here after deducting the width of the wave is BF minus BW. And of course, it is the depth of the flange DF. This is the depth of the neutral axis. So here I can write this wave is acting as a singly reinforced beam. This wave portion I can analyze as a singly reinforced beam. So total AST here I have provided is AST 1. For this concrete, here also this is the flange portion. For this concrete, it's also giving me the total compressive forces. It is giving me the compressive forces. So we were discussing about the flange beams. Till now we have discussed how to calculate the effective width of the flange. For the isolated beams, isolated T beams, isolated A beams, we have discussed how to calculate the effective width of the flange for the continuous T beam and the continuous L beam. Right. Now we are going to start the analysis of the T beams, and we have seen if in any case I am getting the depth of the neutral axis is less than the depth of the flange. So in that case, good. If it is visible, so now this was our first case. If the depth of the neutral axis, XU is less than the depth of the flange, so what we did, we can analyze the given section as a normal rectangular section. Right? We can calculate the total compressive forces, we can calculate the total tensile forces, we will be able to calculate the total moment of resistance given by the section, and we can calculate the moment of resistance in the tension zone also, right, for the given flange beams. Now the second case is, if in any case I am getting my depth of the neutral axis greater than depth of the flange. If my depth of the neutral axis is greater than the depth of the flange, what I am going to do here, first of all I will check the case number 2.A. This will be my case 2. There are two sub cases in the case number 2. That is, first is here 2.A. The case first 2.A is 3/7 of XU is also greater than or equal to the depth of flange. If you are getting this type of conditions, 3/7 of XU is also greater than the depth of the flange, that means your flange is uniformly stressed. This rectangular portion is applying the uniform stresses. This is the stress block. That means your flange is uniformly stressed. So how to analyze this? So for this, I can divide my given figure into the two sub figures. First is the wave portion and the second is the flange portion. I can analyze these two portions separately. I can calculate the moment of resistance given by this wave portion. I can calculate the moment of resistance given by this flange portion, and I will add these two moment of resistance, and it will be the total moment of resistance given by the flange beam. Right? So how to calculate the moment of resistance for this wave portion? I have taken the wave portion from the top of the flange to the bottom of the wave. From top of the flange to the bottom of the wave, I have taken the total depth, effective depth is D for the wave. This is your flange portion. The effective width of the flange is BF. If I deduct this much portion, which is nothing the width of the wave, so the available width is BF minus BW. And the depth of course is DF. Here I have provided the concrete. Of course, there is a concrete. So concrete will give the total compressive forces, and it will be taken by the still AST1, which is here. This will take AST. Whatever the tensile forces will be there, it will be taken by AST1. Right? Now same here also there is a concrete in the flange portion. If there is a concrete in the flange portion, definitely it will give the compressive forces. If it is giving the compressive forces, we should provide the tensile forces, means we should provide material to take the tensile stresses here also. So suppose I have provided AST2. So here AST1, here AST2. So total AST1 plus AST2 is your AST. Right? Now, let's start with calculation. First of all, we are going to analyze this portion, the wave portion. Let's calculate the total compressive force. The total compressive force C equal to, of course, it will be acting as a singly reinforced beam. And I know the total compressive force for the singly reinforced beam is 0.36 FCK B into XU. Right? The compressive force will also be given by this flange portion. And I can calculate the total compressive force given by the flange portion is, and I know my flange portion is uniformly stressed. My flange portion is uniformly stressed, means everywhere the stresses are same, it is uniformly stressed, and I know the total stress in the concrete I take, which is the design strength, is 0.446 FCK. So if I want to calculate the total compressive forces here, so I can calculate as the area of the stress block, right, up to the depth of flange only. So the total stress in the concrete is 0.446 FCK into area. Area of the flange portion is BF minus BW into depth of flange. So stress into area, it will be giving me total compressive force applied by flange portion, and this is the total compressive force applied by wave portion. If I add these two forces, definitely I am getting the total compressive force in my flange beam. So in this way, I can analyze the total compressive force in the given flange section. Now let's calculate total tensile force. Of course, the total tensile force in the here is 0.87 Fy AST1 plus due to the AST2. Of course, there is a tensile force due to AST2. It will be your 0.87 Fy into AST2. Right? So this is the tensile force in the wave portion. This is the total tensile force here due to the flange portion. Right? So this is my total tensile force in the flange beam. I want to calculate the moment of resistance. So in the compression zone, you see here, for this particular case, your lever arm will be same, D minus 0.42 SU. In the compression zone, in the wave, definitely I will be using width of wave. This 0.36 FCK BW into XU, because I am using the width of beam as a BW here. For this particular case, suppose I am analyzing as a singly reinforced beam, the width available is the width of wave. So the total compressive force will be 0.36 FCK BW into XU. Right? Now, so in this way I calculate the total compressive force and the total tensile force. Let's calculate the moment of resistance for this given section. Of course, the moment of resistance will be same, D minus 0.42 XU. Let's find the moment of for this the lever arm will be D minus 0.42 XU, and for this case the lever arm will be the distance between the total compressive force and the total tensile force. So in this case, the total compressive force are acting somewhere here at the CG of the flange, right? So from here to here, your total, it is the total lever arm for this particular figure, right? Is the distance between the compressive force and the tensile force. So this distance is nothing but here, this is the total effective depth minus df by 2. So lever arm here I can write, the lever arm value is nothing but equal to d minus df by 2. Right? Now let's calculate the moment of resistance. If I want to write the moment of resistance, it's very simple. The moment of resistance, suppose I want to write in the compression zone, is equal to, first of all, the moment of resistance due to the wave is equal to 0.36 FCK B into XU. This B will be BW into XU. This is the total compressive force in the lever arm for this case is D minus 0.42 XU. This is the moment of resistance for this particular case. Now, for this particular figure, plus, let me write plus the moment of resistance given by this is 0.446 FCK, this is the total stress, into area is BF minus BW into DF. This is the total force, compressive force given by this flange portion into lever arm. This lever arm is given D minus DF by 2. D minus DF by 2. If I want to write the moment of resistance in the tension zone, so I can write the moment of resistance in the tension zone for wave portion is 0.87 Fy into ST1 into D minus 0.42 XU plus due to this portion. So due to this portion, we can calculate the moment of resistance is 0.87 Fy ST2 into the available lever arm is D minus 0.42 XU. Sorry, here it will be D minus DF by 2. Right? So in this way, we have calculated the total moment of resistance in the compression zone as well as in the tension zone. So here we can observe, this is the total, see, this is due to the wave portion and this is due to the flange portion. And the moment of resistance due to the wave portion and this is also due to the flange portion. If I add these two moment of resistance, this will be in the total, this moment of resistance will be given by the total flange beams. So in this way, I calculate the total moment of resistance in my given section. So, any doubt? Please note down this. This is the total moment of resistance given by the total flange portion. This is the total flange portion is taking the moment of resistance equal to this and equal to this in compression in the tension. And definitely these two moment of resistance will be equal for a balanced section. So this is our case number 2 and sub case number 2.A, where I was getting 3/7 of XU is greater than or equal to depth of flange. I was getting this condition I was getting in this particular picture. So I have realized in this fashion, because my flange is uniformly stressed, so easily I took the stresses in my flange portion equal to 0.446 FCK. This 0.446 FCK I have taken directly because the stresses in the flange portion are uniformly distributed. That means I can directly take 0.446 FCK. Because here 3/7 of XU is already, I have discussed, if it is greater than or equal to depth of flange, the flange portion will be uniformly stressed. You can see here, this is greater than the depth of flange. So this rectangular portion is covering your flange portion and your flange is uniformly stressed here. Have you copied this? So in this way, we people have calculated the total moment of resistance taken by the flange beam. Now, suppose done. So let's see if in any case, see in the second case, case number 2, this case number 2 is your depth of neutral axis is greater than depth of flange. So there are two sub cases. 2.8 we have seen the 3/7 of XU is greater than the depth of flange. Now the case number 2.B is the 3/7 of XU is less than depth of flange. There it was greater than or equal to depth of flange in the case 2.A, but in the case 2.B, it is definitely the less than depth of flange. So what will happen? Let's see. So this distance I know. This is here suppose 3 by 7 of XU, right? And this total is your depth of flange. This remaining is your parabolic portion with the depth of 4 by 7 of XU. This is the total depth of this is the total depth of neutral axis XU. So in this case, you can see here 3 by 7 of XU is less than depth of flange. That means your flange portion is not uniformly stressed. It's not uniformly stressed. So we can see here in the flange portion up to this much portion, which is here 3 by 7 of XU, is uniformly stressed, and the remaining portion is getting the parabolic portion. Means this portion is not uniformly stressed. Only the 3 by 7 of XU portion of the flange is uniformly stressed. The remaining portion is not uniformly stressed because it is getting the parabolic portion. So in the flange portion, this time we are getting the full rectangular portion and some part of the parabolic portion. That means your flange is not uniformly stressed. Then how to analyze this type of the case? That's a big question for me here. So in this case, what I do generally, also I divide the same figure into two parts, wave portion and the flange portion. But this time, I will not be considering the total depth of the flange. I will be considering the equivalent depth of the flange because I want to consider when I can analyze this figure. I can analyze this flange portion when it is uniformly stressed. I can analyze the given figure when it is uniformly stressed. But right now, it is not uniformly stressed. So I want to calculate the depth up to which I can consider it is uniformly stressed. And then depth, that particular depth is called the equivalent depth. So suppose up to here, YF. Up to here, I can consider my flange to be uniformly stressed. So how to calculate this equivalent depth of the neutral axis? Equivalent depth of the flange. We can write here equivalent depth of flange. YF equal to 0.15 into XU plus 0.65 of depth of flange. I can write here up to the equivalent depth please note down this statement up to the equivalent depth, that is nothing but your YF, the flange portion may be considered to be uniform. Right? Up to the YF, it is the equivalent depth of the flange up to which I can consider my flange portion to be uniform. Because I have seen up to the 3 by 7 of SU, the flange is uniformly stressed, and below that, up to the depth of DF, your flange is not uniformly stressed because the parabolic portion is also coming in the flange portion. So what I am going to do here, I will find the distance between this 3 by 7 of XU and your total depth. In between this, I will be considering one depth, that is YF, for which I can consider my stresses to be uniformly distributed, and definitely your YF will be less than DF. Your YF will be less than your DF. That's why I have drawn up to here only. And up to this is the total DF and this is your YF. And up to the YF, I consider my stresses to be uniformly stressed. Please note down this. Vinay is asking one question, why is if not equal to 3 by 7 of XU? So it may be equal to 3 by 7 of XU, sir. In the first 2.A, the case 2.A means, in the case 2.A, your 3 by 7 of XU may be greater than or equal to the depth of flange. So, in this case, your flange is uniformly stressed. So, it may be equal. Up to here, you can draw. It may be equal. 3 by 7 of XU may be equal to the depth of flange. Means your flange will be considered to be uniformly stressed. But here what problem I am facing? I am facing the problem of your 3 by 7 of XU is less than depth of flange. So the only this portion, this red color portion, only this red color portion is uniformly stressed, and below that it is not uniformly stressed, means the parabolic portion is coming. If I want to analyze this total figure, I need to consider the total depth of the flange, right? But the total depth of the flange is not uniformly stressed. So what I did here, I found a distance, a depth where I can consider my flange to be uniformly stressed. So I have considered one depth YF, and it is purely this is the formula given in the code. Okay. Your question is YF. Okay. I understood your question. The question is YF of Y is not equal to 3 by 7 of XU. Right? If I consider YF equal to 3 by 7 of XU, means whatever the concrete I have provided below the 3 by 7 of XU is no use. There is no use of my concrete below that. The compressive forces, see, the compressive forces given by the section is up to here. Right? If I want to analyze this figure, the total figure, what I am going to do, I am going to divide this total portion into the wear portion into the flange portion. So if I am dividing into the wear portion into the flange portion, and I draw a separate figure for the flange, particular for the flange. So what I am going to do here, I take the total depth of the flange in the first case, means in the 2 point A. If I consider the total depth of the flange, but I know the total depth of the flange is not uniformly stressed. Okay, this I know. Then you are asking, consider the depth up to which it is uniformly stressed, right? You are asking the question, if it is uniformly stressed up to the 3 by 7 of XU, you are asking the question, if it is stressed up to the depth of 3 by 7 of XU, so I should consider YF equal to 3 by 7 of XU, right? Then what is the use of this concrete, sir? Whatever the concrete is provided below the 3 by 7 of XU, what is the use of that? That will also give the total, this portion will also give the stresses. This portion will also give the compressive stresses. Because there is a parabolic portion is there. If there is no any portion, there is no stress block, then I will be considering up to the 3 by 7 of XU. But there is a parabolic portion. That means it is taking your compressive stresses which are coming due to the external loads. So I need to consider that effect also. So what I am doing here, I am not considering the full depth. I am considering up to the some depth which is less than the full depth of the flange. Right? So in this way, we have calculated YF, that is the equivalent depth of the neutral axis. Let's analyze this figure. So again I am going to divide this portion, this figure, the main flange beam, into the two parts, in the two figures. First is your wave portion and second is your flange portion. So here I can draw suppose here I am going to provide ST1, and of course this is the width of the beam, means the width of the wave BW. And the second thing is, the second figure means your flange. And of course the width of the flange will be BF minus BW. Here I am going to provide the ST. Suppose ST2. Here I am going to provide suppose ST2, and this is the available width is BF minus BW. Now the width, the depth, this time I will not be taking DF, that is the total depth of the flange. Now this time I will be taking YF. This is your equivalent depth of the flange. If suppose this is the YF, so your available lever arm will be D minus YF by 2. This D minus YF by 2 will be the lever arm for this figure, and here we know D minus 0.42 XU. Can I write the total compressive forces here? The total compressive force C equal to 0.36 FCK BW into XU for this figure. Now for this figure, the total compressive force given by the flange portion, equivalent flange portion I should say here, for the equivalent flange portion is equal to total area is BF minus BW into YF into the stresses in the concrete is 0.446 FCK. Right? The total tensile force also I can write here, and it is equal to T equal to 0.87 Fy ST1 plus 0.87 Fy ST2. Right? This is the total compressive force and the total tensile force. The formula is same like the case of 2.A, only I have changed in instead of writing the depth, total depth of the flange, I am writing equivalent depth of the flange here. In the same fashion, if I want to calculate the moment of resistance, so I can write the moment of resistance in the compression zone equal to 0.36 FCK BW into XU. The lever arm is here in this figure is D minus 0.42 XU. If I want to calculate the moment of resistance for this section, I can write BF minus BW into YF into 0.446 FCK into the lever arm. The lever arm available for this is D minus YF by 2. So D minus YF by 2. So this is the total moment of resistance we can calculate in the compression zone. Please note down. Then we will see how to calculate the moment of resistance in the tension zone. Please write down. Please write down this. If you want to use any book, you can use the Ramamurthy book, you can use the Clough and Pengine book, you can use the Devdas and Menon book. Devdas Menon is the professor in the IIT Chennai. Very good book is available in the market. You can purchase that book. Or you can go for Ramamurthy book also, Reinforced Design Beam. Reinforced concrete design of beams. Means everything is there, full analysis is there, not only the beam, everything is there. You can follow those books. Done. So let's calculate the moment. This moment of resistance is the moment of resistance in the compression zone. Let's calculate the moment of resistance in the tension zone. The moment of resistance in the tension zone is equal to 0.87 Fy ST1. This is the total tensile force given by figure 1, means where for this the lever arm is same D minus 0.42 XU. So here you can write D minus 0.42 XU. Right? Now, whatever the moment of resistance given by this section, that also we can add here plus 0.87 Fy ST2 into the lever arm available here is D minus YF by 2. And YF is your equivalent depth of the neutral axis, equivalent depth of the flange. So this is the total moment of resistance in the tension zone. And of course the moment of resistance in the tension zone will be equal to the moment of resistance in the compression zone. So in this way, we analyze your flange beams. If suppose in the question they have given the actual width of the flange, so it is our duty, it's a mandatory to calculate the flange width, is effective flange width of the beam, and then start the calculation. So it is very important to understand, always use flange width, effective flange width. We are not going to use the actual width of the flange width, right? We are going to use the effective flange width here. So this is the way we have designed or analyzed your flange beams, right? So you have calculated the moment of resistance. Now you can calculate the AST also. If you want to calculate the area of reinforcement, you can easily calculate, right? This will be, yesterday also we have seen, this is acting as a singly reinforced beam. So for this, if you want to provide AST1, you can calculate AST1 easily. For limiting value MU limit, this AST1 we can calculate, and this AST2 we can calculate by putting that moment of resistance equal to this 0.87 Fy D minus Fy by 2, right? So in this way we calculate area of steel also. Now let's solve some problems, then you will understand how to analyze these flange beams. So please see your PPT. Get 2012 for 2 marks. Yeah, if 50 is visible, see the gate question. See 2012 for 2 marks. Please read the question carefully and we will solve. Please try to write. First, try to write the given data. Whatever the data they have given, please try to write. See the third line, second and third line. What they have written? A portion of a slab is considered as an effective flange. Means, I will show you one figure they have given here. One figure, the figure is given here. So the 1000 mm is the effective flange width. They have given in the question, it is the effective flange width. It is not the actual flange width, sir. So we do not need to calculate the effective flange width. We directly use this 1000 mm as the effective flange width. Now, write down the data. Total AST they have given me is 1000 mm square. Sorry, 4000 mm square. FCK is 25 Newton per mm square. FY is 415 Newton per mm square. Right? And they have given me this figure. They have given me this figure. So from this figure, I know the width of wave is equal to 325 mm. The effective depth D equal to 570 mm. Effective flange width BF is equal to 1000 mm. And the depth of flange DF they have given 100 mm. So this data they have given me in this question. So if you want to analyze this figure, you want to analyze this flange beam, and the question is, this is the question. This is the question. Calculate the depth of the neutral axis. Axis is the depth of the neutral axis. Right? How we will calculate the depth of neutral axis? We will put the total compressive force is equal to total tensile force. From there we can calculate easily the depth of the neutral axis. But the problem is we need to find the case. Whether it is the case number 1 or the case number 2. If it is the case number 2, so if it is the case number 2.A or it is the case number 2.B, that we need to find here. So how to find? So the simple procedure I am going to explain here. If you want to find the case number, so what I am going to do here, assume it is the case number first. Assume it is the case number first means I am considering, let's assume case first means I am considering the depth of neutral axis is less than depth of flange. Right? If it is less than the depth of flange, means I can apply, I can use all the formula of rectangular section beam. Right? So let's calculate the depth of neutral axis. I can put here C equal to T. So for C I know that is your 0.36 FCK BF into XU equal to 0.87 FY into ST. From here I can calculate XU. So XU equal to your 0.87 FY means 0.87, FI is 415 and the ST they have given me 4000 mm square. This ST is actually equal to ST1 plus ST2 divided by 0.36, FCK is 25 into width of the flange is given 1000 mm. So the depth of the neutral axis XU equal to, can we calculate? Please give me answer. What is the value of XU? What's the value of XU? The value of XU we can calculate and this coming as 160.467. This is the depth of neutral axis I am getting here. And the depth of the flange is given 100 mm. That means, in this case, your depth of neutral axis is greater than the depth of flange. Because here I am getting the depth of neutral axis is 160.47 mm and the given depth of the flange is 100 mm. So definitely the depth of the neutral axis is greater than the depth of the flange, means whatever the assumption I have taken, it is the case number 1, it is not actually the case number 1. Right? It is not actually the case number 1 because in the case number 1 I have assumed the depth of neutral axis is less than the depth of flange. But here when I calculate, I am getting the depth of neutral axis is greater than the depth of flange. So definitely it is your case number 2. Definitely it is the case number 2. So let's analyze as per the case number 2. So what case number 2 says, if I'm getting the case number 2, so I should check whether it is a case number 2.A or 2.B. So let's assume it is a case number 2.A. Step by step we should follow. First we have assumed the case number 1 and we found here it is not actually the case number 1. Now assume it is a case number 2.A. Please note down, then we will see case 2.A. So assume case 2.A means I am assuming the depth of neutral axis is greater than DF and also 3 by 7 of XU is greater than or equal to DF. I am also assuming 3 by 7 of XU is greater than or equal to DF. So let's calculate first of all XU as per the case number 2.A. So total compressive force in the case 2.A is equal to 0.36 FCKB into XU, which is your BW, plus BF minus BW into DF into 0.446 FCK. This is the total compressive force. This should be kept equal to total tensile force, which is equal to 0.87 F by AST1 plus AST2. This is the case number 2.A. So 0.36 FCK is 25. BW they have given me 325 into XU plus BF minus BW. BF is 1000 mm and BW is 325. So 1000 minus 325 into the depth of flange is 100 mm into 0.446. FCK is 25. Should be kept equal to total tensile force, that is 0.87. Fy is here 415 into the total AST they have given me here 4000 mm square. This second term is known. This term is also known. The right hand side term is also totally known. Only the XU is not known. So we can calculate from here. And this XU is equal to, you calculate, you will be getting the value XU equal to 236.41 mm. 236.41 mm. Right? So in this way, I have calculated the depth of neutral axis, which is of course greater than the depth of flange. Let's calculate whether 3 by 7 of X is greater than or equal to DF or not. So if I calculate 3 by 7 of XU, which is your 236.41, it will give me 101.33 mm. 101.33 mm. That means the DF available is 100 mm. The DF given is 100 mm. Right? DF is 100 mm and the 3 by 7 of XU is 101 mm. So I have satisfied this condition also. That means what are the assumptions I have made here? Okay, it is a case 2.A is okay, fine. So safe. Means your depth answer is depth of neutral axis is 236.41. If suppose I am not getting this this condition 3 by 7 of XU, if suppose less than 100 mm, so it will be your case number 2.B. And in the case of 2.B, first of all I will be calculating the equivalent depth of the new flange, and then we will start the calculation for depth of neutral axis and the moment of resistance of the given section. But here I am getting the case number 2.A, so this is my answer for the depth of neutral axis. So the answer is C, 236.41 mm. The answer is C. Please note down. The second question is, it is a continued of that question only. Again for 2 marks, means a total 4 marks. The ultimate moment capacity in the kilonewton meter of the given section as per the limited state of method of IS 456-2000 is. We can calculate the moment of resistance also. It is very simple. How it can calculate? We can calculate in the compression zone or we can calculate in the tension zone. But in the tension zone, there is a problem. We cannot calculate the moment of resistance in the tension zone for this particular case. Why? Because they have given me the total AST. I do not know the value of AST1. I do not know the value of AST2. Right? So I cannot calculate the moment of resistance in the tension zone. I can calculate the moment of resistance in the compression zone. So let's calculate the moment of resistance in the compression zone. What I am going to do here, in this case, here in this term, I am going to multiply the lever arm. In here also, in this term, I am going to multiply by the lever arm. This is the term which is giving the compressive forces due to the wave. And this is the term which is giving me the total compressive forces due to the flange. So for the flange portion, for the flange portion, your lever arm is D minus dF by 2. And for the wave portion, we have calculated the lever arm is D minus 0.42 XU. Let's calculate the moment of resistance. Suppose moment of resistance we want to calculate in the compression zone, then MOR, moment of resistance, is equal to due to the wave portion is 0.36 FCK BW into XU into the lever arm is D minus 0.42 XU plus due to the flange portion it is BF minus BW into DF into 0.446 FCK, the total compressive force due to the flange portion, into the lever arm is D minus DF by 2. Here I will not be using YF by 2 because it is the case number 2.8. Your flange is uniformly spaced, so no need to calculate equivalent depth of the flange. We will be using the total depth of the flange, DF. So this is the formula for moment of resistance, just we have derived. So let's calculate the moment of resistance in the compression zone for the given section. So 0.36 FCK they have given me 25. Width of the wave is 325. Depth of the neutral axis XU just I have calculated, it is equal to 236.3. 236.3 is your depth of neutral axis into D they have given 570 mm minus 0.42. XU is your 236.3. So this is the total moment of resistance by the wave portion plus by the flange portion is 1000 minus 325 into the depth of flange. Depth of flange they have given me 100 mm into 0.446. FCK is 25 and the D is 570 minus 100 divided by 2, right? So in this way I can calculate the total moment of resistance, and the value of the total moment of resistance MOR in kilonewton meter. See, these values will be giving the moment of resistance in Newton mm, right? If you want to convert it into the kilonewton meter, I need to multiply by 10 to the power minus 6 to get my answer in the kilonewton meter. So here I am getting the value 716.895 kilonewton meter. The total moment of resistance given by the section is 716.895. So answer is B. So in this way I can calculate the total moment of resistance for the given section. It may be your T-beam or it may be your flange beam. So the total value of moment of resistance I am getting here 716.895 kilonewton meter. So the answer is B, 717 kilonewton meter. Please note down. Done? Okay. So I think now we are going to start one new topic, that is the characteristic compressive strength of the concrete. Generally many questions have been asked from the characteristic compressive strength of the concrete. Okay. So now we are going to start characteristic compressive strength of concrete. Characteristic compressive strength of concrete. So write down the definition of the characteristic compressive strength of concrete. It is the strength of concrete below which not more than not more than 5% results are expected to fall. So what is characteristic compressive strength of concrete? Suppose, as per the definition, the characteristic compressive strength of concrete is defined as the strength of concrete below which not more than 5% results are expected to fall. That means, suppose I have prepared cubes in 100 numbers. I have prepared 100 number of cubes for M30 grade of concrete. Total 100 cubes I have prepared. And out of these 100 cubes, suppose 95 cubes are giving me strength greater than or equal to 30 Newton per mm square. What I did here, actually I have prepared one cube, I have prepared 100 number of cubes for M30 grade of concrete, and I saw when I tested in the compression testing machine, I saw 95 cubes are giving me strength greater than or equal to 30 Newton per mm square. But only the 5 cubes are giving me strength less than 30 Newton per mm square. 95 cubes are giving me the strength greater than or equal to 30 Newton per mm square, and the 5 cubes are giving me strength less than or equal to 30 Newton per mm square. So this 30 means here, see, only the 5% results are expected to fall. These are giving me the strength less than that, right? So this 30 is called the characteristic compressive strength of concrete. If you satisfy this condition, so as per IS 456, this 30 is called the characteristic compressive strength of concrete in Newton per mm square. Right? So see, if in any case, here I am not getting 95 and I am getting say 85. Only the 85 cubes are giving me the strength greater than or equal to 30 Newton per mm square, and the 15 cubes, suppose, giving me the strength less than 30 Newton per mm square. So is it called the compressive strength? Yeah, it is called the compressive strength, but it is not called the characteristic compressive strength. This 30 is not called the characteristic compressive strength of concrete. Right? So there should be 95% of success and the 5% results may be expected to fall. Fine. So this is the definition of the characteristic compressive strength of concrete. Now please write down the definition of characteristic compressive strength of concrete. If I see here, generally we have discussed the characteristic compressive strength of concrete, we denote by FCK. Right? We denote by FCK. Suppose I have prepared the number of cubes and I am testing in the compression testing machine after 28 days of curing. So here I can write on the x-axis I am taking the compressive strength. 28 days compressive strength. This I have taken on the x-axis. And on y-axis, I am taking the number of samples. Number of cubes or the number of samples we can write here. We can also write the frequency. Frequency is nothing but your total number of cubes, whatever the cubes you have prepared, that we are going to write on the y-axis, and that their compressive strength, corresponding compressive strength we are taking on the x-axis. So I found a normal distribution. This type of the figure I am getting, if I take the compressive strength on the x-axis and the total number of the cubes on the y-axis, I get this type of the distribution, and I assume the distribution is to be normal distribution. Means I assume the cube strength is normally distributed. This is a normal distribution. So as per the definition, see the total area under this curve, this bell-shaped curve, the total area under this bell-shaped curve is 100%. It's total 100%. If I am drawing one line in this area is suppose 5%, this total area is suppose 100%, and this much area is only the suppose 5%. This area is 5%. So the strength corresponding to the 5% chances of failure is called characteristic compressive strength of the concrete. This already we have written in the definition. Means this is the characteristic compressive strength of concrete below which the strength will be less than FCK, and this chances is 5%. This is the FCK. The cubes, only the 5% results are expected to fall. See, the results are falling. Means the strength is less than FCK. The chances are only 5%. But 95% chances of success. Means the 95 cubes, if I am preparing 100 cubes, only the 5 cubes will give the strength less than FCK. If I prepare the 100 cubes, so 95 cubes will give the strength more than FCK. Right? And this FCK is called characteristic compressive strength of the concrete. See, if I draw one line somewhere here, what is the meaning of this? This is nothing but the mean. I denote generally mean by FM. FM. That means this FM is dividing the total area of curve into two parts, 50% here and 50% here. So can I write the definition of FM? Yes, I can write. What is the definition of FCK? FCK is the characteristic compressive strength of concrete for which not more than 5% results are expected to fall. Right? Only 5% results are expected to fall, not more than that. So what should be the definition of FM? Which is your mean strength of concrete. So we can write the definition of FM is the characteristic compressive strength of concrete for which not more than 50% results are expected to fall. This line, this FM is dividing the figure into two parts. The left hand side part is the 50% and the right hand part is again 50%. Means the chances of getting the strength less than FM is 50%. Means the 50 cubes are giving me the strength less than FM and the 50 cubes are giving me strength more than FM. If suppose I am preparing 100 cubes, so the 50 cubes will give me the strength less than FM and the 50 cubes will give me the strength greater than FM. Right? So I am going to write the definition of FM here. FCK definition we know. FM is characteristic compressive strength of concrete below which not more than 50% results are expected to fall. So this is the definition of my FM, which is the target mean strength. This FM is also called target mean strength. How to calculate FM? So the normal distribution or the normal distribution figure, if I see here, so distance between these two strength is 1.65 of sigma. I can write here K into sigma. Means your FM is 1.K times sigma more than the FCK. Your FM is K times sigma. Your FM is more than K times sigma of FCK. So I can write here FM is equal to K into sigma plus FCK. Right? Please prepare this figure. So I think you people have prepared. So in this way, this is the normally distributed, your cubes are normally distributed. Most of the cubes are giving me strength, target mean strength. Most of the cubes are giving me strength in the range of FM, means nearly the FM, that is your target mean strength. And I design my concrete to achieve the target mean strength. So see here, I know the definition of FM, it is the characteristic compressive strength of my concrete for which not more than 50% results are expected to fall. Means suppose I have prepared 100 cubes, so 50 cubes will be giving me strength greater than FM and the 50 cubes will be giving me strength less than FM. So how to calculate FM? I know the formula FM is equal to FCK plus K into sigma, where sigma is the standard deviation on the normal distribution curve. Standard deviation of the normal distribution. And K is called probability factor. its value is given equal to 1.65. The value of K is given as a 1.65 as per IS code. In the IS code it is given equal to 1.65. And FCK is the characteristic compressive strain for which not more than 5% results are expected to fall. So I always design my concrete to achieve the target mean strength. This FM is called target mean strength. This FM is called the target mean strength. Okay. How to calculate sigma? Sigma values are also given in the code. Now we are going to write the value of sigma for the different grade of concrete. So you prepare one table here. FCK, the grade of concrete. FCK means the grade of the concrete, and the sigma value, corresponding sigma value. So here you can write N10, M15. Just note down. This is the standard deviation values for different grade of concrete is given in the IS 456-2000. So using these values, we can calculate FM now. So FM is your target mean strength. Why is it actually important? The target mean strength is actually important here because we always design the concrete for target mean strength. We always try to achieve the target mean strength, which is obviously greater than FCK. This FM is greater than FCK. If we design for FM, if we design our concrete for FM, so definitely we can achieve our FCK. Right? So let's solve one problem, then you can understand. Find FM for M30 grade of concrete. Suppose I want to prepare the concrete which is having the characteristic compressive strain is 30, M30 Newton per mm square. So what should be the target mean strength? What should be the design? How to calculate the target mean strength? So here I can calculate the target mean strength equal to I know the formula FCK plus K dot sigma. The FCK is here 30 plus the K is the probability factor and it is given in the code as a 1.65 into standard deviation. The standard deviation is given here for M30 grade. It is 5. If it is 5, I can put here and I can calculate the target mean strength equal to 38.25 Newton per mm square. Of course, this 38.25 Newton per mm square is greater than 30. So if I try to achieve the target mean strength 38.25, that means all the concrete, my cubes, all the cubes will be giving definitely the strength greater than 30 Newton per mm square. If I design my concrete to achieve 38.25 Newton per mm square, that means definitely all the cubes will try to give the strength 30 Newton per mm square. Right? So in this way, I try to achieve my characteristic strength, for which I assume the 5% results may be expected to fall. So to achieve that FCK, we try to achieve FM. If we achieve FM, that means automatically we have achieved FCK also. Right? So let's solve the problems which were asked in the last years. In last years, many problems they have asked. Get 1999 for 1 mark. Please see your PPT. Get 1999 for 1 mark. What is the answer? Read the question carefully and try to give the answer. Yes, the characteristic compressive strength is the strength for which we consider only the 5% chances of failure. Means only 5% results are expected to fall. Out of 100 cubes, we can assume the 5 cubes will be giving strength less than FCK. Okay, so here 5%, your answer is B. 5% of the results fail. Next question, okay. Next question, get 2006 for 1 mark. To get 2006 for 1 mark. Read the question carefully and then give answer. It's a little bit tricky, but very interesting. You will understand what is the meaning actually of this question here. So what is your answer? Let me write your answer. The question is, if the characteristic strength of concrete is FCK, okay, the characteristic strength of concrete of FCK, this is suppose your normal distribution curve. Here I know there is a FCK for which I consider 5% chances of failure. So this is 5% chances is defined as the strength below which not more than 50% of result expected to fall. That means this FCK gets shifted here, right? The same FCK is get shifted here. So I can write here, this is my generalized formula FCK, but this time he is going to denote this FM by FCK. As per this question, he is suggesting consider the FCK is the characteristic strength for which not more than 50% results are expected to fall. That means the FCK for which earlier you were considering the 5% results are expected to fall gets shifted somewhere here. That means it is the value of target mean strength. It is the value of target mean strength. This I denote by FM. So your FCK will directly become equal to FCK. Right? So your answer should be C. Your answer is C. Because we consider 50% chances of failure and the 50% chances of success. So in the case of target mean strength. Fine. Next question. Get 2014 for 1 mark. Please see your PPT and try to solve the answer. Yes, for this question answer is D. Correct. This is your FM and this is somewhere here, suppose FCK. The distance between these two I know that is 1.65 into sigma. So definitely your target mean strength will become FCK plus 1.65 of standard deviation sigma. So your option is D. Answer D. The answer is D. One more problem is there. Get 2017, very fresh question. It is asked in this year only, Get 2017 for 1 mark. Please read the question carefully. Your concepts are clear now and try to give me answer. Get 2017. Exactly. Somebody is given the answer C. Yes, C is the correct answer. That is a 25 Newton per mm square only. See, I know my FM, that is the mean strength. This is only the mean strength FM for which I consider 50% chances to fail and the 50% chances to pass or to get success. Right? So this is FM is the mean 50% chances of failure and the 50% chances of success. So definitely it is called the target mean strength. And they have given the value of this particular characteristic strength equal to 25 Newton per mm square. For 25 Newton mm square, I am getting 50 cubes. Suppose 100 cubes are there. So 50 cubes are giving me strength less than 25 and the 50 cubes are giving me strength greater than 25. Right? So if the 50 cubes are giving me less than 25 and the 50 cubes are giving me suppose greater than 25, that means it is the mean strength. It is the mean strength. So answer is same. 25. He is asking for the target mean strength. So the mean strength is 25 Newton per mm square. So answer is C. The answer is C. It's a very important question. In the Get 2018 also it may be repeated. Now let's discuss some criteria to accept the grade of concrete. Suppose I have prepared the concrete at the site, then I will be testing my concrete in the laboratory. So how to accept the grade of concrete, whether I should accept this particular grade of concrete or not. See, there are 3 criteria that we need to follow here. The first criteria is criteria first. F average shall be greater than FCK minus FCK plus 0.825 into standard deviation sigma. 0.825 into standard deviation sigma, or it should be greater than FCK plus 3. This is for grade less than M20. For FCK less than M20, means maybe for M15 or M10. If I want to talk for the grade greater than M20 or equal to M20, so F average shall be greater than FCK plus 0.825 into standard deviation sigma, or should be greater than FCK plus 4. This is for grade FCK greater than or equal to M20. This is our criteria number first. This F average, what is the meaning of F average? Suppose I have prepared 3 cubes, or suppose 4 cubes I have prepared, and for first cube I am getting the strength suppose 33.2, for the second cube suppose 32.1, then 31.0 and then 30.2. 4 cubes I have prepared and I have tested in compression testing machine, and I am getting these results in Newton per mm square. So average of these 4 is equal to F average. I will be taking the average strength of these values as the F average, and this should not be less than FCK plus 0.825 into standard deviation. Suppose this grade I have prepared for M30. For M30 grade of concrete, I have prepared the total 4 cubes. I took the strength, as average strength I took F average, and then I saw my F average should be greater than FCK plus 0.825 sigma or FCK plus 3, whichever is maximum. So I can write here whichever is maximum. Here also whichever is maximum. Okay. So this is your criteria number first. If you can satisfy these conditions, that means whatever the concrete you have prepared for M30, that is acceptable. Generally, we will be discussing total 3 criteria. It's called the acceptance criteria, we can say here. If you satisfy all the 3 criteria, so whatever the concrete has been prepared at the site can be accepted for the casting purpose. If any of the criteria we do not satisfy, so we cannot use that particular concrete at the site for that particular grade. Okay, so this is your criteria number first. Let's see the criteria number second. The second criteria is individual test result. Individual test result. It is also called ITR test. In short, we people write ITR test. So here your FC individual should be greater than or equal to FCK minus 3, or should be greater than or equal to FCK minus 4, or you should write only the greater than FCK minus 3 should individual should be greater than FCK minus 3, and FC individual should be greater than FCK minus 4. This is for grade FCK less than M20, and this is for FCK greater than or equal to M20. Right? Suppose I have prepared M25 grade of concrete. I have prepared M25 grade of concrete. So total 4 cubes I have prepared. 1 cube, second cube, third cube, and 4 cubes. Suppose I have prepared each cube. So 25. See here you can put here for 25. I'll be using this FCK minus 4. So 25 minus this 25 minus 4 is equal to 21. Is equal to 21 means any cube shall not give me strength less than 21. This should give me greater than 21. This also should give me the greater than 21. This also give me the strength greater than 21. This also give me the strength greater than 21. If in any case, any one of the cube is giving the strength less than 21, the concrete will not be accepted. Your concrete grade, your concrete particular whatever concrete you have prepared at the site will not be accepted. Right? This is your second criteria. It is called individual test result criteria. Third criteria. Criteria third is, write down the statement for the criteria third. The statement number A. Statement number A. Minimum minimum 3 cubes shall be tested. And the second criteria is variation in the individual test result shall not exceed 15% of AF average. So, if you are preparing the concrete, the minimum 3 cubes you should prepare. Why 3 cubes? Why not 1 cube only? We people can take 1 cube also, and we can test in the compression testing machine. No, minimum 3 cubes shall be tested, because in the concrete is not a homogeneous material. At different location of the concrete, the proportion of cement to aggregate ratio or the aggregate to cement ratio may be different. At the different location in the concrete, the ratio of aggregate to cement may be different. At one location in the concrete, the water cement ratio may be different from the other location of the concrete. So what I do, minimum 3 cubes I take from the different locations of the concrete. Suppose this much concrete you have prepared, so minimum 3 cubes I will prepare, and I assume these 3 cubes will show the property of the whole concrete. If I am taking only the 1 cube, so it will not show the property of the whole concrete. Minimum 3, as per the IS code, minimum 3 cubes shall be tested, right? And whatever statement number 2, that is 3.B, as per the assumption criteria number B, the individual test results, the variation in individual test result shall not exceed by 15% of F average. Means we can calculate this variation FC individual minus F average divided by F average into 100. Here it may be a plus minus. This for 15% variation may be plus minus. We'll solve a problem, then we'll come to know this variation may be plus minus. So this variation individual test results shall not exceed 15%. And the percentage may be in plus or may be in minus sign. Right? Now we are going to solve one problem. So these are the 3 criteria. If we satisfy all these 3 criteria, then only we will accept the given grade of the concrete. Otherwise, the concrete, whatever the concrete has been prepared for particular grade, that will not be accepted if we do not satisfy these 3 criteria. So let's solve one problem. Have you done this? Please write down. Suppose for M30 grade, 3 cubes have been prepared, and the strength of the cube is 32.5, 34, and the 33.1. Right? 3 cubes have been prepared for M30 grade of concrete. Total 3 cubes have been prepared for M30 grade of concrete. Let's check whatever the concrete have been prepared should be accepted or not. So our first criteria is, as per the first criteria, F average, it is the M30 grade of concrete. So for grade greater than M20, we'll be using F average shall be greater than or equal to FCK plus 0.825 into standard deviation sigma, or FCK plus 4, whichever is maximum. So first of all, I am going to calculate F average. So your F average will be, your F average is equal to 32.5 plus 34 plus 33.1 divided by 3 is equal to 33.2 Newton per mm square. So this is my F average, the value of F average. Right? Let's calculate the right hand side part. FCK plus 0.825 sigma. So FCK is FCK is 30 plus 0.825 into sigma for M30. The sigma for M30 is 5. Already we have prepared one table for standard deviation for the different grade of concrete. So from there we can take the standard deviation for the concrete for M30 is 5. So here I am getting the value equal to 34.125 Newton per mm square. If I calculate this FCK plus 4, say FCK plus 4, here I am getting the value equal to 34 Newton per mm square. So out of these two, the maximum value is 34.125. So here I can write the 34.125. Your F average shall be greater than or should be greater than 34.125 Newton per mm square. But the value of F average here I am getting 33.2, which is less than 34.125. Right? So that means your F average is not greater than 34.125. Means your cube, what is the concrete you have prepared, is fail in the first criteria. We could not satisfy our first criteria. So I can give the comment here. The comment I am writing here. Concrete is fail in first criteria. The concrete is fail in the first criteria. Right? Then let's check the second criteria. Please write down. Second criteria is individual test results criteria. So here I can write the F average they have given me 33.2. Right, now we are going to start the second criteria, that is the individual test result criteria. As per the individual test result criteria, FC individual shall be greater than or equal to, I should write greater than, it should be greater than FCK minus 4. So here FCK I have prepared for M30 grade. So 30 minus 4 is equal to 26 Newton per mm square. That means all the cubes should give me the strength greater than 26 Newton per mm square. If any of the cube is giving me strength less than 26 Newton per mm square, that means the concrete, whatever the concrete you have prepared, that shall not be accepted. So let's check. So your cube number first is giving me the FC individual for cube number first is 32.5, which is greater than 26. So your cube first is okay. Your cube 2 is 34.0 is greater than 26, which cube 2 is also okay. Your cube number 3 is giving me strength 33.1 is also greater than 26, means your cube number 3 is also okay. That means all the cubes are giving me the strength greater than 26 Newton per mm square. That means your concrete is accepted in the second criteria, means your concrete is passed the second criteria. So I can write the comment here. Concrete is passed in second criteria. Right? If any of the cube out of these three is giving me the strength less than 26, that means your concrete will not be accepted. All the cubes should give me the strength greater than 26. This was my second criteria called individual test result criteria. Now let's Move on. The third criteria. As per the third criteria, there are two statements. The statement number A is there should be minimum 3 cubes. Means minimum 3 cubes shall be tested. Yes, there are 3 cubes. They have prepared the concrete for M30 grade and they have prepared 3 cubes. Right? So this sample is accepted for 3.8. Okay, that means there should be 3 cubes and there are 3 cubes. Okay, fine. Now let's talk about 3.B. One more statement is there, that is the individual test result. The variation in the individual test result shall not be more than 15% of F average. Right? So let's calculate the variation in the individual test results. I know the formula of the variation in the individual test result is, I can write the variation in individual strength equal to FC individual minus FC average divided by F average into 100. This is the formula I know. So let's calculate one by one for all the cubes. So here I can write for first cube, FC individual is 32.5 minus F average I have calculated already, that is 33.2 divided by 100. Oh sorry, divided by 33.2 into 100. For the second cube, individual strength is 34 minus 33.2 divided by 33.2 into again 100. For third cube, it is 33.1 minus 33.2 divided by 33.2 into 100. So here I am getting the result minus 2.1%. Here I am getting the result positive 2.4%. And here I am getting the result positive for negative 0.3%. Means you can observe here the variation, the percentage variation in the strength is less than 15%. Here also it is less than 15%. Here also it is less than 15%. Here also it is less than 15%. The sign does not matter here. All the values are less than 15%. That means your concrete is okay in the third criteria also. Means I can give the comment here. Concrete is okay or pass in the third criteria. Right? So now the question comes whether I should accept my concrete or not. So I have seen my concrete is okay in the third criteria, my concrete is okay in the second criteria, but my concrete is not okay in the first criteria. So as a good civil engineer, I should not accept my concrete because it is fail in the first criteria. So whatever the concrete you have prepared at the site for this particular grade shall not be accepted. There is no quality control. There is no proper quality control. That's why we could not satisfy all the 3 criteria. If there is a proper quality control, if there is a proper mixing, and all the kind of temperature issues and all other storage issues, if we have take care, then definitely our concrete will pass in all the 3 criteria. But right now, for this particular case, your concrete shall not be accepted. So in this way, we have seen total 3 criteria for acceptance for concrete. So I can write the final comment. Final comment. The given sample of concrete shall not be accepted because it is fail in first criteria. Fine, it is fail in the first criteria, so we will not accept the concrete, whatever the concrete is prepared at the site. Let's solve one problem. Get 2000. Please see your PPT. Get 2005 for 2 marks. See, get 2005 for 2 marks. Of course, the answer is 3 and 15. So this was the question actually, and these are the options. So answer should be D. Minimum 3 cubes shall be tested, means it is the value of x, and the individual value of strength shall not exceed the 15% of F average. So the value of y is 15. So value of x is 3 and the value of y is 15. So answer is D. The answer should be D. 3 and 15 respectively. Okay. So now till now we have finished the 2 chapters. The first chapter was your limit state design, and the second chapter we have discussed the limit state of collapse in fracture.